So hello again, we're here for another in our series of Meet the Manager videos. I'm very pleased to have Reece Chowdhry from RLC Ventures with us today. They're a new member to ESA, so we're all learning new stuff at the moment. It'd be great to hear about the fund and hear a little introduction from yourself, Reece. So over to you.
Thanks, Mark, and it's great to be here. Just for those of you who don't know anything about RLC Ventures, we're an early stage technology VC based in London. We have an EIS and SCIS fund, and our focus has been over the last 4 or 5 years is to invest in UK companies that are global in their reach in terms of software, particularly in 3 areas: changing the way people work, changing the way people play, and changing the way people manage money. So over the last kind of 6 years, we've invested in about 60 deals. We invest in 10 deals a year typically, and most of them are companies that are UK based with often a product and a bit of revenue that are looking to scale internationally, globally. And we've got a team of around 6 of us. All of us are ex-entrepreneurs or long-time investors, angel investors, or financial markets investors. And yeah, that's a bit about us. And yeah, pleasure to be here, Mark, and looking to hear more.
Sure. No, you already sparked about 2 or 3 different things I could ask about here. So I'm going to start with the global thing, because that sounds of real interest. So you say the companies you look for are obviously UK based, because that's pretty much what the scheme rules have had with the EIS. You've got to be UK based, or you can have a permanent establishment. They're globally based. So why do you take that kind of global perspective?
Yeah, there's a few reasons, Mark. I think one of it is just our experience. Our team actually speaks to about 2/3 of the globe in terms of languages. So we've got a very global team, but obviously based in the UK. So that allows us to attract potentially great entrepreneurs that are based in the UK or overseas looking to move to the UK, and help those companies essentially expand globally. Secondly, what we find is that the access to talent is global. It's not obviously just the UK that has great talent bases, and often you can get some great talented people which are in all different parts of the world, and often maybe at a cheaper cost. And we sold successfully a company in our portfolio last year called Betting Metrics. That was a UK spin out from a university, London Met University. That was a UK Bulgarian company. So that was a perfect case study of how that company didn't actually raise a ton of capital. However, in 2.5 years, we managed to sell that business very successfully. And, they had operations overseas in Bulgaria and tech talent, but then had, UK sales operations and a global software product, which was used all over the world from the moment we invested. So that's kind of a summary of our thesis.
And I guess as a business these days, you don't need to be in any particular hotspot. You don't need to be in New York or London. I could set up a business in my back room here in Bedford, and I could go global tomorrow in that sense. So I guess that helps kind of that all come together, does it?
Absolutely, Mark. And we were doing this obviously pre-COVID. This was our kind of thinking pre-COVID, and obviously that journey has been accelerated, and a lot of the companies in our portfolio have benefited from that tailwind of having those kind of global remote teams and those global clients. And software is core to what we believe in terms of our investment thesis, because if you build some software that can be exponential across the globe, and the marginal cost of that is not more than for example producing a widget somewhere. So I think that's the thing we really look for: those businesses that can scale very quickly, scale globally, but then have a UK as the main base. And that gives clients a lot of other funds, particularly EIS funds, very much focus on UK companies because of the nature of the scheme. We're giving clients that bigger appeal, I believe.
Yeah, and I guess that means you need an international marketplace in that sense as well. So how do different markets work across the world? Obviously, the UK market, consumer market, is different from the Indian one, different from the US, different from Bulgaria that you mentioned a minute ago. How do you help those companies kind of hit those markets?
Sure, that's cool. And I think, just going back to our kind of overall thesis, which is changing the way people work, play, and manage money. The way I always articulate it is changing the way people work. Think of Microsoft, and that's a ubiquitous global company impacting every person, no matter what country they're in. Think of something like Netflix, that's in nearly every country, changing people way entertainment. And think of PayPal. So those 3 companies is what we have in mind when we look at deals that we're doing. Can they have that global reach, which is cross-border, cross-language, and can impact people in a very global way. So for example, at the moment we've just invested in a company which is a leading producer in treasury management software, and so that already has clients in Australia, UK, US, and so treasury as a function is a global problem, because often people have different treasury functions in different elements of their business, and so that's something like that ticks those boxes for us in terms of a business that we like investing in.
Sure. The other thing you mentioned was kind of global talent as well. So obviously finding the right people, finding the right management, etc., etc. When you're working in different countries across the world, I know, again, there's hotspots. India has a great early stage VC setup, and various other places across the world. But how do you find those people? How do you get into your networks? I guess what's your deal flow source in that sense?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Mark. And I think there's a few things in terms of the deal source, the deal sourcing. Obviously, given that our team speaks a lot of languages, we have ears and eyes around the globe, obviously with the benefit of Zoom, in terms of accelerators, universities, other angels, other VCs. So we have quite a global network of individuals that we know. So often, you might, a lot of other VCs might be very UK focused, but we have kind of a slight edge, because often companies do want to come and relocate to the UK for capital purposes, for legal purposes, etc. And when they know that that's our thinking about, we've done that a number of times as one of the very a company that's growing a lot in our portfolio is a company called Cliff, and they were a UK India company, originally incorporated in India. We brought them to the UK. We led their round. They were actually an ex-Techstars business, which was an accelerator that we have a very good relationship with. And for example, they benefited with 5-6 times cheaper engineers in India, but then having sales operations and presence in the UK. So I think that gives you a kind of an idea of how that works.
Okay, so you got eyes on the ears, got on the ground pretty much all over the world to try and find these great companies and bring them to the UK.
And also obviously as our investments have grown and we've done 60 deals as a partnership, that means that we have founders all over the world, and that for example, we have a big Slack group with all the founders, and that's a really good source of deal flows, because they've got their eyes and ears on the ground and they know what we're looking for, and we invest for it. So it becomes exponential, and it gives a lot of kind of proprietary access over time.
It's good to have that network out there, I guess, in that sense. Then the other question I was going to ask, obviously in the UK, we had the patient capital review a couple of years ago, and I kind of discovered that we're great at building companies, we're not great at scaling them up. And when it comes to scale up, that's when we lose companies from the UK and they go off to the States or to China or to wherever else. Is that something you're hoping to do with some of these companies, is to bring them into the UK and then keep them in the UK, but obviously be global in their outlook?
That's exactly it, Mark. I mean, I'm very, very bullish on building tech companies, particularly in the UK. If you look at some of the great brands in terms of the VC market that some people might know, someone like Sequoia, who backed Airbnb and Dropbox and all these fantastic companies, they're actually setting up an office in London. They haven't picked anywhere else in Europe to set up an office. And I'm having similar conversations with a lot of the West Coast VCs that I have good relationships with, who are looking to move to London, particularly in the UK, because they feel this is the center of the market in terms of access to capital, presence in Europe generally, and obviously there's benefits of potential for them English speaking language as well. So I really feel there's some really big outcomes coming in terms of the UK technology scene. If we look at some of the companies that have been built over the last 10 years or so, something like TransferWise or Deliveroo, you can see these companies are becoming maturing, on the verge of listing, and they aren't the things that were traditionally built in the UK 10 years ago. And so all I feel is that people will look at that from an investment point of view and say, no, we don't need to move over to the US and flip the company to the US. We can actually build a great business, but multi-billion-dollar business in the UK. And there's facts to back that up now.
You mentioned Sequoia coming to the UK. It kind of followed on to the question I was going to ask. How are the companies you're talking to when you speak to them? I think you mentioned Bulgaria and India.
Yeah.
How are they feeling about coming to the UK at the moment? Because obviously with Brexit, are they nervous about coming to the UK? They're excited about coming to the UK?
So generally, I think they're pretty positive. I mean, I think if you look at the actual dollars of venture capital, one of the big drivers for people coming to the UK is often inward investment into their company. And if you look at the UK, it outperforms in terms of dollars amounts over any other place in Europe in terms of VC dollars. And so they're very bullish in the sense that they know that it's a great place. It's a great place for time zone. It's a great place legally as well. Often they've looked at other places in Europe and think it's not as easy from a legal point of view if we're ever kind of selling a company. They've looked at it from a tax point of view as well. And they, the government is very supportive. I've had conversations with entrepreneurs this week. It's budget week, about how the government are very behind the technology ecosystem. For example, they brought out the FinTech review, which they've already started implementing some of the guidelines in there that they've come out with. And I think generally they're just bullish about how the government is positioning almost like this tech first growth as a way of driving out of Brexit. And they can be a big proponent of that. Obviously, British Business Bank has also got some more funds to invest in scale up companies alongside later stage venture capital firms. And so all of these initiatives signal to global entrepreneurs the UK is a great place to build businesses. But the main thing is that entrepreneurs will look at fellow entrepreneurs and say, here's a business that was started in the UK, so in something like fintech, and has listed successfully in the UK and has gone through that whole journey. That's the best advert for the UK more than anything. And I think we just need more of those, and they are coming.
Yeah, so very much the budget this week, obviously just time stamping the video slightly, budget this week has obviously set out the fact that we want to be open for business in that sense, being a global player and all things innovation and growth. I know the Build Back Better document talks about an innovation strategy, which hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about over the coming year or so as well. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be in the UK, I think, for early stage companies. I wanted to go back and talk about 3 areas that you talked about earlier in terms of work, play, and managing money. I hope I got that right. In terms of work, obviously with COVID and what's happened with COVID, how do you see work going forward from now? The whole work from home, are we going to go back into our offices? We've seen the WeWork model. Is that going to kind of change and be differentiated? How do you see it being played out?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think from the people I'm speaking to, generally, there's obviously some great proponents of working at home, but generally people are a little bit fed up if from the people I speak to on a daily basis, and they want to move to some kind of hybrid model. Now, what does that really mean in terms of our investment thesis? Still, in a hybrid model, you're going to need great software to even more so than just having a fully remote model and versus a fully hybrid model, because you're going to need a blend of online and offline tools to kind of help you manage an organization efficiently. And so that's what we really believe in terms of that thesis, that there's just going to be great companies built in software particularly that can help people change the way they work on a daily basis, or change the way they kind of interact with their clients on a daily basis. So there's a company the last company we've just invested in, a company called Eccentric. They are call center software for banks around the globe, and they, for example, remotely call up clients and say, you might have missed your overdraft, then send a text message and then follow up. And then that traditional kind of software might have been, let's put everyone in a call center, have one person to manage them, and then get to pick up the phone and call our clients. However, there might be some operators that are at home, some in the call center, and this software kind of helps as well manage that from a management point of view. So, I mean, that's a good example of how, a company in changing the way people work will hopefully, with AI, reduce cost and also change their call center operational model. So I think generally the world of work is going through a massive digital transformation, and we're probably 20% on that journey. And I think we've got a long way to go. Even very, very simple ideas have really big potential to be created into really big companies.
I guess it's this old theory that all these things are going to happen eventually anyway, and all COVID has done is kind of fast forwarded or accelerated that process, moved it a lot closer forward in that sense. The other question I was going to ask, so you mentioned, I think the company name was Eccentric there, you talked about the call center, yeah. In terms of a company like that, obviously you raise money for them, you give them funding. What else do you do as a VC to support that company? I assume you don't just hand over the money and say, look, no. Get on. How much hand holding do you do? Is it full on? Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, so no, our model is So when we first started RLC Ventures, one of the key things is we realized we need to serve the entrepreneur first. And then, yeah, I'm really proud that we have 100% founder approval rating in our portfolio, i.e. they would recommend any other founder to us, which is the best testament and my net promoter score, if you like, in terms of our business. And so the way we approach it is our style is all about speed with founders. So when we invest, it's pretty early stage, you know, relatively. They've usually got revenue, they've usually got some products, but they're trying to get to, you know, typically they may be doing 200,000 of revenue, they're trying to get to 1 million in the space of a year. So that's kind of the gap we're trying to help bridge. And so we do lots of things. You know, about 50% of the companies we have some kind of board observer role, and the other ones we don't. We'll often co-invest with other VCs that we've trusted, and they kind of are representing us. So there's coverage on the board for first point of view, but the main thing we focus on is speed. So we realized that in tech, everything moves incredibly quickly. You need to hire an engineer tomorrow. You need a meeting with a VC who's potentially doing a new funding round for you. You need an access to an accountant very quickly. All of these things need to be done at speed. And traditionally, the way a lot of VCs worked was, we'll wait to our monthly board meeting and we'll put it into a pack and then we'll solve some problems there. So all of our founders, for example, have direct 24 access to our team, and we commit to responding to any of their requests in 1 hour. And so, for example, this week, someone called our team up through our internal systems and said, I'm looking to hire an engineer. By the next day, they had 5 candidates. By the end of the week, they'd hired that candidate. So that kind of speed that we operate at, and I think, you know, we're backing the last 3-4 deals that we've done have all been second-time founders. So, you know, the quality of entrepreneurs we're backing is extremely high, and they're all being, you know, successful exits. And so we're not there to tell founders what to do, but we're there to be on hand when they don't have that little bit of knowledge or they have a little bit of gap, and we can execute that very quickly. So that's our whole thesis in terms of helping founders, and we found that's worked exceptionally well, and it's been really eye-opening to a lot of founders.
Okay, so you're kind of their trusted advisor, the go-to person. If they've got a problem, you're on the end of the phone to try and
exactly.
Yes. Got it. Okay.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the E word there in terms of exits. How do you help guide those companies towards an exit? Because obviously you make your investment, and the end goal is to try and get your money out and hopefully make a significant return for both yourself and your investors. So how do you help them kind of guide and point them towards that point?
Yeah, so I think first of it lies in the team as itself. I mean, as a team, we've all been through a process where we've gone through the idea to exit with companies. So unless you've done that process as a team, as in a partnership, you aren't going to be able to guide potential companies through that successfully. I think that's the first thing. That's the base principle. I think the second thing is that, you know, every company that we invest in, you know, we look for, you know, who are going to potentially be acquiring this business. You know, that might be private equity or trade sales. So there's a big part of us which, you know, we look to build relationships in the industry with, you know, people that are downstream that could potentially give us liquidity in the market. Now, traditionally, that would be, you know, an acquisition from maybe a corporate or private equity, or maybe a listing or of some kind. However, even nowadays, one of the big parts of our job is that a lot of companies, as they've been growing, have been, you know, a lot of later stage funds have been offering secondary sales, or there's specific secondary businesses out there now looking for high growth companies that they will take out early stage investors. So something like that, for example, it's not your obvious thing, but if we're building relationships with people that can help us do that, will bring clients liquidity a lot earlier than they potentially, if they were just investing themselves directly into a potential EIS deal. So that's one important. And the second thing is, you know, there's a big PR piece. But when we sold previous companies, one company in particular, you know, it was a cold message in LinkedIn, and, you know, that came off the back, and the company was eventually acquired, and that came off the back of, you know, some marketing on our end. We've helped with the PR, we got it into the right channels, we got the founder into the right places, having the right interviews. So the company had some profile in the industry, so other industry players knew who they were, and that really helps in terms of that downstream story. Because if you don't know a company, then potentially there's no way of acquiring it. So that's a couple of ways that we've kind of helped our portfolio over the years and had some successful exits.
Oh, great. I guess you don't know what you don't know, but it sounds like you're having some real success on the exits front, which is always good to hear from an EIS point of view. So that's that's definitely good news in that sense. And then just last question, obviously we're coming towards the end of tax year, people starting to make their investments or pushing towards it. Just give us an idea of the portfolio at the moment and some of the companies you may or may not be investing into, if you're able to do so.
Yeah, happy to do that. So there's a couple of companies we're investing in at the moment. One is a company called Intelligent AI. It's an insurtech business. It helps insurers with commercial property risk. So think of it, for example, if you're an insurer and you have to insure all the McDonald's sites in the UK, actually at the moment, a lot of insurers don't go out. 90% of insurers don't go out, actually survey commercial property. So this software essentially helps commercial insurers price risk appropriately. So it gives them more information, i.e., is there a Domino's being put next to a McDonald's, so it's more of a fire risk? Is there potential flood warnings, etc.? So it uses things like satellite data, various other data streams to kind of give insurers so we're doing that from the companies that we're investing at the moment, which is really, really interesting. And then another company we're looking at as well, and we're basically on the end of closing that deal, but I can't disclose the name, but it's a company that helps with customer interactions. So for example, you log on to a website, you're browsing the website and it comes up with a little icon saying, can you do a 5-minute video for 20 quid? So it's a two-way video between you and the customer, and it kind of browses through the website and says, where were the problems here? So it's almost like a Zoom customer interaction feedback tool. And they've got some early clients and some early traction. So look out for that company. It'll probably be announced very soon.
Okay. Sounds like two super exciting companies. So always good to see. So just to end up then, if people are looking to invest, if they want to know a bit more about yourselves and RLC, where can they go? How can they find you?
I think the best way, Mark, is always just go on our website. Everything's quite clearly laid out in terms of our thinking, our thesis, all the kind of things you would expect on there in terms of prospectuses and brochures, etc. So yeah, log on to there. But if anyone wants to connect with me personally, just log on to LinkedIn and just type my name, Reece Chowdhry, and just say you watched the video, and I'm happy to have a chat with you.
Sure, I'm happy to find it. And obviously your links are on our website as well, so hopefully you can blink through there if you need to. So Reece, just leaves me to say thank you very much. It's been a great insight into RLC and the work you guys are doing. Good luck for the year ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Take care.